I'm Nicolette, and today Brian and I are here with Chuck Hester. He is the Director of Strategic Communications over at Fountain Forward. Chuck, how are you? Thank you for joining us today.
Great, Nicolette. How are you?
I'm doing well. So, Chuck, can you tell the users what a little bit about yourself?
As you mentioned, Director of Strategic Communications for Fountain Forward. You guys are familiar with Steven Jugella, our CEO and founder. Uh, I work with that guy. So that's what we do. Digital marketing and working with a variety of clients in that. But I'm also a LinkedIn expert speaker trainer on how to use LinkedIn for business and a pay it forward advocate. So I work with companies in regards to how to pay it forward in community and build brand equity. Do a lot of personal, professional branding as well.
Awesome. So, you mentioned you're a LinkedIn expert, and LinkedIn has become quite a buzzword these days. I mean, everybody's talking about how to market themselves on LinkedIn, right? You know, everybody's seeing that there's some sort of value in it that they're not finding in other social platforms like Facebook and Instagram, you know, especially we're talking business. So, you know, can you talk to us a little bit about why this uptick in LinkedIn notice?
Yeah, I'll start with my favorite analogy. My analogy for Facebook versus LinkedIn. LinkedIn is basically, sorry, Facebook is your backyard barbecue, and LinkedIn is your backyard barbecue that you invite your customers and your bosses to. Uh, Best way to describe that. But the uptick started to occur approximately 2 to 3 years ago when LinkedIn came out with their goals and where they wanted to be, and they wanted to be a content marketing platform for business to business, and that's kind of the bottom line on that. If you're a B2B company, and honestly now a B2C company, LinkedIn is really a good place to be. The other reason that I'm seeing for the uptick is the influencers that are actively involved on the platform. And that includes Gary Vee and several others who have basically said, this is the platform I want to be on. I'm going to concentrate on this. This is what this looks like. And then the third thing is video. LinkedIn now does LinkedIn Live. There's a waiting list to get on that, but you can do LinkedIn Live videos. They encourage video throughout the platform, not just on status updates, but also on your profile, on your company pages. And it's really starting to take off. They are at, and I just double checked that, but they're at 575 million users worldwide, and they continue to grow. I remember when I came on the platform, I think we were at 45 million or 100 million, something like that, and that was about 13 years ago. So they continue to grow.
So, in your experience, then, what are you seeing as some of the biggest mistakes people are making on LinkedIn?
The lack of engagement would be the best way to describe that. I can't tell you, I'm sure you guys have the same situation, but I can't tell you how many LinkedIn invitations I get, either that are generic, I want you to join my LinkedIn platform, or I get a nice little note, hey, we have some people in common. I know Nicolette, Nicolette, let's
Right.
connect. I'll say yes. And immediately, probably within 15 minutes, I get this pitch for whatever services they've got, whether it be SEO or writing services or whatever it may be. They don't take time to engage, and that's the biggest thing that you really need to pay attention to on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great engagement platform if you use it correctly, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with a good author named Bob Berg with the Go Givers, sorry, and I'm a Bob acolyte, and basically that's the know, like, and trust. I will actually use that as a message back to these people. Say, you know what, I don't know you yet. Therefore, I don't trust you, and I could like you, but I'm not going to trust you enough to do business with you because I don't know who you are. So that's kind of the point on that. But yeah, it's engagement and being able to talk to your customers, tell stories, get that information out. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking LinkedIn is a couple things. One, it's an online resume. It's not. It can be for job seekers, and don't get me wrong, there's about 40% of the users at one point in time or another are using LinkedIn to find jobs, or companies are looking for employees to use using the platform to do so. But in the process of it, really is day to day. It's about doing business with other people that you get to know, you like, and you trust.
So, what's the best? Sorry,
so Chuck,
I have a question just about that.
Okay.
so Chuck, real quick, so you're saying, you're getting a lot of messages where people are just coming in and then trying to sell your service. How should they go about it? What are some tips you could give people that are
That was my question, really. So, instead of coming to you and you know let's connect and then hitting you with that message, what kind of engagement do you judge as more genuine then?
Yeah. And just kind of give you a perspective, and we always say don't try this at home, but I have 20,000 connections on LinkedIn. I built that up over 13 years. And in the process of a good percentage of those are folks who have either met at a conference or have met at a meeting, or they may be somebody that, if you honestly, as I get to know you guys and say, hey, Nicolette says you're a good person, I really should get to know you, I'll probably accept that invitation. But I have a tendency to, if I get a generic invitation, depending on where it's coming from, if I see, for instance, that it's business development out of Pakistan, India, wherever it may be, I kind of go, okay, I know exactly what they're trying to get at, and I promise you that message will come next. But if, I will spend some time, and I have templates actually that I use with my executive clients where, they can do a quick cut and paste. It's basically, hey, I don't accept generic invitations on LinkedIn. Take time to look at my profile, find something that we have in common, and one of the reasons that you want to connect with me. And if I hear back from you, I may connect with you directly. And that's a new one. I've added that may aspect of it, so they don't think, okay,
Right.
he's going to connect right away. That's the bottom line. And then from that, I mean, I take, it's honestly, LinkedIn can be to a certain extent like an online dating app. I mean, you're going to talk to them originally. You may want to take them to text or phone call and get a chance to know them. On the quality, solid connections that I get, I will do that. I'll connect with somebody and say, okay, hey, you know what? Let's set up a 15-minute phone call. You tell me about you. I'll tell you about me. How can I be of service to you? And take it from there and see what goes on. At the end of that phone call, by the way, what I do is I say, okay, I know your services now. This is great. Send me an email like I'm a potential customer. So if I get to know you, then I can pitch you to other people and refer you to other people, because I use your language as opposed to language that I might try to make up for you.
Right. Well, and I just want to go back to the 20,000 connections, because that was built. I mean, that was you took time to really know, and you were very picky, right? So, what about these people? And I'm not going to mention any names. What about these people who grow their following and connection base rather quickly on LinkedIn? Is that for just have that? I don't know. To have that popularity or error about it. I mean, what is that for?
Yeah, to a certain extent it is. I mean, I've been on LinkedIn, like I said, about 13 years. Approximately, I don't know my numbers for sure, but 7 or 8 years ago, LinkedIn stopped using the number of connections on a profile that was public. In other words, now what you see is 500 plus. Because at one point in time, it started to be a game. How quickly can I get to 500? How quickly can I get to 1,000? And they stopped that to a certain extent. As far as that goes, yes, there are a lot of people out there go, hey, you know what? I have more connections than you do. Well, that's great. And I'll tell you what, guys, up front here, I'm not Steven Jagella, so I'm not going to be. My language is a little different than his language, but one of the things, the number of connections doesn't matter. It's what you do with it is would be my analogy there. So that's the big aspect of it. The other aspect of the 20,000 for me is because I'm a pay it forward advocate. If Nicolette comes to me and says, you know what, I'm having trouble finding a job and I'm in the Denver area, whatever, I have 19,999 connections that could potentially help her. And that's a big aspect for me as well.
Do you think it's become like a badge for people? Because once you get to that 30,000 mark, you no longer have connections. They're now followers. Do you think a lot of people are seeing it as that?
I would say yes to a certain extent, but understand that every person that is on a LinkedIn connection with you is a follower of yours, unless they decide not to. They have to opt out to do that. So having the followers and looking at that, and at the end of the day, guys, I'm never going to have. I don't even know what Gary's is these days. 5.7 million followers or whatever the number is.
Right.
That's not important to me. I do go in every once in a while, look at my follower list and say, okay, are we connected as well? Because I do a lot of content marketing on LinkedIn and use LinkedIn tips and those type of things. I'm curious to see if there's people that I want to connect with directly and be able to work it that way.
Right.
We've seen a lot of people monetizing the platform now in different ways. So whether it be their personal brand to market their own business, or using, media companies using it to, as a product or a service, and that's just one thing we've seen popping up a lot. Are there any other kind of trends that you're seeing on the platform, or in social or on social media in general?
Well, as we talked about earlier, video has become huge. I mean, it really is important to be able to look at that. You know, I'm just now starting to kind of dip my toe into TikTok, for instance, but Instagram stories and Facebook stories, there are LinkedIn stories, guys. I mean, there's no reason why you can't do that. I'm on the waiting list for LinkedIn Live, and in the process of customer service, sent a quick email and said, you know, you can do video and status right now, and I've done those.
Right.
I'm in the older generation that's not overwhelmed with having to do selfie videos or these type of videos. You know, I always like to say I've got a great face for radio, but that's another story. Anyway, no, but video is very important. I mean, it really honestly is. But the more important aspect of it, it's kind of interesting to see because I've been in marketing for close to 35 years, that we are coming back around to telling stories and relating one-on-one. I don't know if you guys are familiar with a guy named Brian Kramer, but he has an organization called Human to Human, and
Mhm.
that's a big aspect of it. It's, you know, it's connecting humans to humans and being able to look at that. The book that I wrote a while back, Linking in to Pay It Forward, Changing the Value Proposition of Social Media, a big aspect of it was treat that person like they're standing right in front of you, because just because they're behind a screen
Mhm.
doesn't mean they aren't the person that you want to be talking to. So that's a big aspect.
Do you think, you know, as we've seen, like influencers, right? And I'm quoting here, but influencers and sort of what Nicolette spoke to, like we see a lot of people have monetized, you know, Facebook, Instagram, things like that. We see a lot of companies doing stuff and a lot of people creating pages, you know, that have millions of followers with sponsored posts. And we see, you know, you can see those blatantly in some of these feeds. Do you think LinkedIn is going to sort of take a stand on that where they have to be labeled as sponsored or anything like that in the future? Because
I
LinkedIn's
certainly
probably one of the tightest networks, you know?
Yeah, and I certainly hope so because you know that not having that, quite frankly, kind of lack of a better way to put this, tarnishes the brand a little bit. You know, I don't want to necessarily go on someplace where you know there are folks who are influencers and paying to get folks to pay attention to them. Again, it's the human to human aspect of what I'm looking for. I connect really well with my clients, with folks that we work with here at Fountain Forward. We always talk about making sure that you know, and you guys talk to Stephen about this, having empathy with them and understanding their you know their connections and where we're coming from. That's incredibly important because we're teaching them as well and helping them to learn how to connect with their customers better. And that's at the end of the day, that's kind of what it all is about. You know, we want to connect one-on-one, even if it's 20,000 to one, we still want to connect one-on-one and be able to do that.
So I have a two-layer question then. A,
Okay.
what are your, you know, which videos on LinkedIn do you prefer? You know, as you're scrolling through your feed, what really stops you? And B, do you encourage then clients to do the same thing on LinkedIn?
I'll answer the second part of the question first. I
Okay.
do encourage clients, and we at Fountain Forward do encourage clients to use video because it does make a difference. A lot of what we do, we work with a lot of automotive dealers, for instance, so we're concentrating more on the Facebook platform. As far as that goes, but we're encouraging them on a regular basis to get out there and do that selfie video at the dealership and talk further about what's going on. I think it's a good platform. You need to be careful to make sure that that client or that customer or yourself, lack of a better way to put this again, is camera ready. But the appeal sometime is they're not camera ready, and that's okay. You know, I've done podcasts in the past where I said, you know what, I'm at a conference and I got back and my producer would say, hey, that's perfect. We really want some of that flavor, if you will, for what's going on. As far as what I watch and what I look at, you know, there's a guy named Steven Jurgella who does some really good videos on a regular basis, and I had something to do with the personal branding, professional branding in that regard. So I think that's one for sure. Gary Vee's another one.
Mhm.
I follow Richard Branson, for instance, you know, Craig Newmark. Those type of people that I'm looking at. I also do like the conference videos. I mean, when folks are at conferences and they're interviewing folks in the hallways and saying, "Hey, this is what's going on, and how do you think about this?" and you know that entertains me and at the same time informs me.
Brian, what am I missing? I know your wheels are spinning.
No, actually, I was gonna talk to you a little bit about those conference videos because I feel the same way as you, Chuck. A lot of times too with those conference videos, when you're just interviewing someone at a conference, it's also everything's fresh in everyone's mind, right? So it's almost like getting the information, or part of the information, or from that expert, when it's fresh in their mind at the conference. Because let's be honest, a lot of people can't always, take off of work for a week to go to a conference, or do you know what I mean? Or their company can't afford to send them, or whatever the case is in a professional aspect. So I think it's good. I think those videos are, I think people should use it more, is my point.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I'm a member of a professional speakers group on Facebook, for instance. We talk further about that of what, pulling audience members aside after they're in the hallway and say, okay, so what did you get out of this? What does it look like? Or here's my 5 key takeaways for you to enjoy. My favorite conference of all time, hands down, is Content Marketing World. I go every year, have for the last 6 years. And one of the nice things about that is, as I'm basically a moderator for the keynote tracks. That's what I've been doing for a while. I really like the fact that I can go home and then I can listen to all of the different conference sessions that occurred. As a matter of fact, I've shared this with our team here, and we look at those on a regular, from Marcus Sheridan and Tamsin Webster and all that bunch that are out there. It's really nice to have that information there and available. But as to your point too, Brian, it's really nice when in the moment you can sit there and say, okay, look, I'm at CES and this is going on, and I want to pay it. This is the latest trend, and this is what's going to be happening. That's important as well.
Yeah, and I think too, I think what's one of the best part about videos like that is it's natural, right? Your mind's thinking about all those things. It's just a quick question and it's just coming out. So it's coming out with that genuine feel, right? And I think that's what makes them very, very important, so.
Agreed. And that's quite frankly, that's one of the reasons I look at TikTok and go, oh, okay, take my shirt off and play with my dog, but that's another.
I know I thought my dog was going to come visit us before. So.
I have one more question though.
Sure.
So what about these clients who are maybe resistant to video? So whether it be, maybe it's a generational thing, maybe it's their personality, they're more of an introvert. I mean, how do you kind of convince them that this is the way to go and that they're going to be okay?
Well, there's a couple of things there. One in particular, if there's people in the organization that are more camera ready and more comfortable with that, find those people and make them spokespeople. That's one way to do that. And we do that with a couple of our clients here. The other part of that is let them see some examples, because, we've Fountain Forward's been around for a while, and we've got some really good examples of how video works really, really well. Not just on YouTube, but pre-roll video and the like for advertising and Facebook videos. And as we found, quite frankly, as soon as they do one and they see some reactions and they like it, they start wanting to do it more often.
So I know we focused a lot on LinkedIn, but is there anything else that you think is super important that we should be kind of talking about today? We were very LinkedIn heavy because you're a LinkedIn expert, but.
I understand that. Again, I'll harken back to my other favorite passion, which is paying it forward. In this world right now where we are, social media is, quite frankly, it's a mislabel. It's not social. It is a media channel. There's no doubt about that. But we do drive-bys is the best way to describe that. We talked about when Kobe Bryant passed away on Sunday. Everybody talked about him and Gia, which they should have. But there was not a lot of conversation in regards to the other 7. At the same time, somebody who got a good friend of mine who lives in Australia, and they said, "Oh, okay, how about the firefighters that are on the line and doing that?" So I have a real heart for paying it forward, helping people, finding out what's going on. One of the things that Stephen and I are on the same page with is regards to mental health and business, and being able to actually talk about that. That's a big passion. Mental health. There was a great post, I don't know who did it, but the other day about mental health days are okay. And it's okay to say, you know what, I can't come in today because I just can't handle it. And and here at Fountain Forward, we've got a team that surrounds everybody, and we are all family. And I can't tell you the number of times where people have come to me or to other team members and said, "Doing okay today? How's that going?" Or a quick text that say, "Hey, I appreciate you and I appreciate what's going on." Side story on that, by the way, I used to say I appreciate it a lot. I always now say I appreciate you, because that humanizes it, and that's really where it comes from. And you don't know. There was another post. You have no clue the person you're standing next to in line what they're going through unless they talk to you about it. And honestly, Stephen's really good at that. Unless you poke at them occasionally and say, "Okay, no, wait a second, what's really going on? And do you want to take 20 minutes and let's have a conversation and sit down and talk about it?" So it's about conversations. And I think we really have lost that.
Yeah.
That is again why I look at Instagram stories and Facebook stories and all of that's great, and even the platform TikTok and what's going on with that. I mean, that's not human. It truly, honestly isn't. It's just it's a media company.
Yeah.
Everybody, you've heard this, and you guys know this better probably than anybody else. Everybody's a media company. We all have the capability of podcasting on a regular basis. So, but are we connecting directly? When's the last time that you picked up the phone and called somebody because you hadn't talked to them in a month or whatever it may be?
Yeah.
I will say I do that often. I do. I will pat myself on the back.
I'll add one more thing to that too, Nicolette, and I'll pick up the phone with you every once in a while too. Joe Pelusi, who you guys know is the Content Marketing Institute, and now he's a novelist and he's doing really well. He posted a really cool thing in his newsletter. It was a newsletter article. He said, and it was about Valentine's Day, which I was like, wow, and it was appropriate for me. I'm recently divorced, and Valentine's Day is a different situation for me these days after 20 years of marriage. But what basically he said is, there are people out there who either have lost loved ones or don't celebrate Valentine's Day because they don't have anybody, whatever. Send them a Valentine's card. And by the way, make sure it's actually in the mail and not an email. And that's kind of the bottom line. So, that's a good example of being human, and not only being human, but being sensitive to the folks around you, that they could be having a bad day. They're just not talking about it.
No, it's true. It's true. It's I smile, say hello to everyone. Random people in the street, you make eye contact with them, you say hello. I mean, I get some weird people talking to me, but I don't mind it because I'm weird myself. But but it's sometimes and you never know how that changes someone's day. I remember, I'm gonna tell a real quick story. I remember I was at a stoplight and there was some lady in her SUV next to me, and you could see she was like crying. And I just look at her, she looks at me, and I just do, smile, and she looked at me and she smiled and she started laughing. And she's like, "Thank you." Because obviously she was having a bad day, and we all do. And sometimes you just need someone to, make you smile for a second, or just say, "Okay, it's okay." And I agree. We're big fans into being good humans. So
absolutely.
Well, we love talking to people like you, Chuck. That's why we love talking to people like you.
Appreciate that.
Well, we really, really thank you for coming on this afternoon. And can you let everybody know where they can learn more about you, and not to connect with you because you might not accept it? Don't connect with Chuck.
I have a closing line in my speeches that I always use. I am Chuck Hester all over the web. That's 13, 14 years of professional personal branding, and I've worked. Literally, I own the first 3 pages of Google, except for a builder in South Carolina. So, one entry there. But my point on all of that is you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Those are my 3 major platforms that I'm working on. I'm in Instagram as well, not as often as I should be. But that's the easiest way. If you go to LinkedIn and you send me a LinkedIn invitation, this is a line I use as a closing part of my speeches. Basically, all you need to do is say, "Chuck, I saw you on the podcast and you rocked," and I'll accept it.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chuck.
Absolutely. My pleasure.